Well, welcome to another SNG Studio update. It's freezing cold back here as usual, and I say usual because since October it's been cold here. It's just not like that here, but I guess it is now. So let me show you what I'm working on because I am trying to get some new rocket kits in the store to bring some money into this place. And then, of course, the minute I do that, I start getting mass orders. So sometimes when you do something else because you think something else isn't going to work, it generates or causes somehow in the force things to change. So yes, I'll be making mass next week. But I'm trying to get these two kits. Well, you know that one back there, the camera rocket. It's going to fly on Saturday. But also, so is the big V2 I've been working on. As you can see, when my hand comes in here, yes, this is quite a large V2. There's the nose coming over there. You can see it compared to the other one. And so this is a beta build, alpha build, something like that. And I've cut the fins. This is the boat tail. This is the business end with the screw-on cap for the 29mm motor. There's the engine mount. That's going to be glued down inside of here. And I'm using a BT80 centering ring for 29mm engine tube. And this is for BT101, which is this size here. And you see this in here, that is an eye bolt. There's one on this one as well. I think this epoxy's probably set up by now. No, not quite. There's another one hanging over the edge there. You see it. And that's where the shock cord is attached to that I'm stepping on, which is Kevlar. Very heavy duty stuff. I'm also putting a piece of elastic in there. And what that does, this piece is shorter. So what happens is when the ejection happens, it stretches out. It doesn't just hit, it acts as a shock absorber, so you don't end up pulling these out or snapping something or causing a zipper. I learned this from North Coast Rocketry. I think it's a very good idea. So I'm going to be tying this on. And then after that, this all gets glued into the boat tail. And then this gets glued onto the boat tail. And then I blend in the fins. And basically, we have a functioning rocket, except that I have to sand the leading edge on here. I have to put some fillets in here before I paint it. So I'll be doing that next. The thing that I sometimes forget is I go ahead and I attach this tube here, body tube, to the boat tail or lower section of the rocket, and forget to string this first. Now, to keep this from coming untied, there's some thin CA on both the elastic and the Kevlar, and you want to make sure that also you before you put the epoxy on or whatever glue you decide to use, that you put it through the tube first. So, and then push it down, which I will be doing momentarily. So here we are. Yeah, this is big enough I have to pan up and down it. But what I've done is I epoxied the fins on. They were tacked on with CA, which is pretty strong. I wish I had used 3/16 on this, but hopefully by the time I get a lot of paint and sealer into this, it's pretty light rocket. Hopefully these fins will be okay. Plywood just would have made it so heavy. And as it is, if you're watching Frank, yes, I should have used the thin-walled stuff. But I've already ordered this. So I figured I'll use it as I back out here so we can see the whole rocket. Because the weight's not that bad. So, and we will be flying this on an F engine, which will take me to about, I don't know, 600 feet maybe. Maybe only 5, I don't know, right around in there according to the calculations on RockSim at its weight and size. So with the G engine, of course, we're looking at altitudes of 1,700 feet or greater. So what I have left to do, of course, let me go back. I used Evercoat metal glaze to fill in some of the gaps and stuff down here after I epoxied it on. I didn't use a lot of epoxy because it's hard to sand epoxy. This particular epoxy I used, the 5-minute stuff, it tends to be kind of rubbery and hard to sand. So I smoothed it down with alcohol and a paper towel and got it very, very smooth. And it made a nice little fillet. But then I went back over it with Evercoat Metal Glaze, which is kind of like a Bondo, but not nicer to work with, easier to sand. Then I used Air Cure spot putty, Bondo spot putty. Can't even read it, but this is not 2-part. This is 1-part Air Cure. You put it on, and tomorrow it'll be completely dry. It's very easy to sand. It fills grain and everything else. It's great stuff. So, and then I can paint it, but I do have to put the launch lugs on next, and I'll be using these larger sized ones here. I just have to glue those on with some white glue and let it sit overnight, and she is structurally ready to fly. As you saw, the chutes in it, the shock cords in it, on the business end here, we've got the engine mount. This is for 29 millimeters, so this unscrews like so. It's got a lot of dust on it. To put your motor in, and then this, this way, when the delay charge goes off to push the chute out, the rocket motor doesn't go the other direction. This holds it in rather well. Isn't it something though? It's plastic. You'd think that the heat of the engine and the flame coming out would melt it, but it doesn't, because the flame actually is very narrow where it's coming out. It expands and it gets wider, and these are just the right size, so it doesn't do that. But it makes a nice look to the business end of the rocket. So, so that's it for today. That's it for today, and I'll be hopefully. I have to go to the dentist tomorrow, and I have to do some pretty nasty stuff. So hopefully, I'm feeling up to prepping this to paint. I'm going to primer it and paint it. White sands colors. Yes, white sands colors. White and black. So it'll look really cool. Anyway, we'll check back in tomorrow. So here we go. We're back at this again. Here. This is going to fly. If I can get my arm out far enough, I should have brought my selfie stick. It's going to fly Saturday, and the weather looks good. So I'm happy about that. I've got, as you know, I've had all that primer on, not primer, filler and different layers of different putties and stuff. And this turned out fairly well. I mean, I've done it very quickly. Blended everything in as best I could. I even noticed that some of the fins are little, not quite straight as they should be. That's what happens when you rush things, but I really wanted to just get a prototype working. These launch lugs are on now, so that'll guide it on the rails. But what I don't like is the step, and that won't be there because the body tubes that I've ordered are thinner walled, and they match exactly to the edges of these parts, so we won't have that little step there. It doesn't bother me too much, but I'm not going to sell a kit that has that. Plus, it'll be a little lighter. Right now, it's very light for its size. Okay, so there we are. We're painted. Very fast paint job using Nova Color acrylic paints and a rattle can of, what is this, Fusion all-in-one flat black primer. I made a few mistakes, but not many. It looks really cool. And it's done in the same paint scheme as this one. But this one really looks the part because this is big and fat and stubby, and I want to turn the camera sideways so you can see it. Can I get back further? Let's see what I can do here. Give you an idea just how, no, it's not gonna work. So my dog is dying to go out for tinkle, which I need to do, but it's big enough that I have a hard time getting it all in frame. So you can see it's that same paint scheme. I'm going to orient this one the same way. No, actually, somehow, no, No, it's the same. No, it isn't. If this is turned this way, oh, there you are. Yeah, it is the same. So you got that, you got that. So that is a White Sands. Look for it. So this is actually a research rocket, not a bomb to kill people, which is how I knew this big sucker when I was a kid. I just thought it was the neatest thing. So later I found out its roots, but I think it turned out very well. I mean, for something I did in, what is this? I started Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days. It took me 3 days to build this, and it's ready to fly. And it's got the chute in it, shock cord, and of course the engine mount. So we will see how we do on Saturday. And I promise I'll get video of it. I will. Good, bad, and indifferent. Usually they work out quite well. We'll see this time. All right. We'll be back tomorrow for more fun. In the assembly building? Well, it's, God, it's raining. It's absolutely raining. And it's been raining for days on end, weeks on end, months on end. And we don't get this very often at all. We're out of drought though. And yes, you could say this is just, we're just having a hard winter. But when you consider what the rest of the planet's going through, it's that dirty word so many of you are afraid to admit to. So it's freezing back here, but that's okay. I don't care. I'd rather be freezing than be boiling hot. You know, in some states it's hot all the time practically. It's summers are 100 and something. The valley where I used to live is 100 and something all the time, 5 months out of the year. I'll take the cold any day. So no, that's not to say that you poor people in those states that are at minus 20 and knee deep in snow and your power's out, no, that's not cold, that's a nightmare. And my heart goes with you, and I can't wait for you to be relieved from that. So my complaining about 40-degree temperatures is rather absurd related to your situation. And some of you have written to me about that. But again, don't be too hard on me because, you know, I'm from sunny Hollywood where it was always a pleasant 70 to 107 degrees all the time for years. So please accept my apologies. Yeah, what are we doing today? It's wet and damp. I can't work on the Battlestar Galactica because what I need to do to it next is light block it and paint the hole, and then start drilling holes, and then paint the hole. Well, I might drill the holes after the light blocking for the lighting, and then I'm going to paint it white, and then start putting some of the electronics in and assembling sections of it. I can't do that because the paint won't dry. It doesn't dry very well. I painted a rocket the other day, and I used poster paints, basically acrylic paints for outside by a company named Nova Color, and they're quite good and they work very well. And if you have a rocket that's a dirty old B2 with black and white on it, you can get away with that, but not a Battlestar Galactica, unfortunately. So, or even working on, you know, just a plastic model of any kind with a high gloss on it until this rain stops, the humidity goes down, it dries out, gets warmer. I'm kind of stuck. I'll show you what I'm doing. We had an order for a Cyclops. That person was the last person to get a Cyclops for $320. Those days are gone. Just opening up this rubber, getting the lid off, and then lifting 5 gallons. Now keep in mind, I lift weights weekly and I do yoga, but I'm 71 years old. And I keep thinking, well, you know, I'm doing good. I should be able to lift this stuff just fine. And I'm finding as I get older, I can't, or I'm not, or something like that. And I'm trying to keep the bubbles down. This is new rubber, and it's bubbling for some reason. And it's very thin, too. for my liking. And I poured the Cyclops. So I lost track of what I was saying. Yes, I was saying, yes, I'm 71 now, and I'm finding this stuff more difficult to do. So this rubber, just a few months ago, was $175 a gallon. Okay, shipping is $33, but the rubber is now $220 for 5 gallons. It's gone up that much, and then the shipping's gone up as well. So by the time it got here, it was almost $300. I did the math. I figured out how many masks I'm getting out of a mold with this rubber, and it's not that many. Making the masks on the order, on the average, have about $30 worth of rubber in them, because I make them really thick, because I want you to have a mask that's going to last a very long time. And so most of my masks, in fact, all of my masks are, and I've heard you guys comment, God, these are so thick, how wonderful. Because you know they'll last a very long time. I had a guy post a mask of mine I did 20 years ago that he bought, some auction or something, and it's still perfect. And that's because of the thick rubber. So I try to give you your money's worth. Well, $320 for this mask minus the materials, my labor, and straining to lift this stuff. You know, this has got 3 gallons of rubber, almost 4 gallons of rubber in the mold, and the mold's very heavy. And it's now, whereas normally I just lift it myself and dump it, I need Mary's help. And then, of course, I have to dry it out, take it out of the mold, trim it, Dremel to it, fix things on it, get it ready to paint it, glaze it, pack it and ship it. And you know, by the time all is said and done, from that $320, I don't make much. And I gotta pay for this roof over my head, in that room upstairs, in the big studio in the front, through that door. So, the offices and everything else. So, you know, with the price going up for everything, it's going up here too. I know some of you were thinking, you know, and it's not true. When someone's really greedy and you depend on your business to work, you know, using their products, if they raise the price of their products, you can't keep selling something for the same price. And you can't be labeled greedy because you increased your prices because you're paying double some of the things you used before. So I do take offense to that. And I know who you are. I am. I'm psychic. Be very afraid. Anyway, now that I'm done talking about that, the masks have gone up over $500 for a mask. I sign them, I hand paint them, I detail them, I sculpt them, and I make them look as much like the real thing, meaning how it looked in the movie or TV show, or even something that I worked on in one of my films that I worked on in my career. I tried to make them as authentic as possible. So you're not getting some quickly made thing from China that's thin rubber and cost you $50. And look, it kind of looks like Baylock. I mean, if you go to Monsters in Motion, you'll see that. They had a Baylock and, you know, sort of looked like them, but it didn't look just like them. And that's the difference. So that's the last time I'm going to talk about that, because my prices are what they are. If you buy one, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. So I'm not bothered, but we're also working on rockets. So what we're doing today, besides that, I'm casting up some more fins for our new larger Mercury Redstone. Well, this is a really big one that I built from scratch. I built this like 12, 14 years ago, something like that. It's going to fly soon, finally. These are the fins that are cast out of the mold, and there's a right half and a left half, and you flat sand them and you glue them together. And these fins are very scale, as is this the capsule. And if you look at this capsule compared to the size of the Estes rocket capsule, you'll see the difference in size. It's fairly significant. This is a good size model. I still have to make a mold of the escape tower parts. These pull out of that, and I will be able to mold those separately and this separately. I don't think I'll do that today. I got the body tubes from Balsa Machining, and these are the body tubes that are a lot thinner than this one, and still very strong and much lighter. So this is going to be great. Then there's this Mustang over here. It's time to fly it. So not this Sunday. I have a club meeting in our field. I don't feel like flying it that day, but the following weekend I probably will fly it. I will get video on the second flight. I don't do maiden flights. Maiden flights, I stay focused on trimming the airplane, and if something is not right, getting it back down again so we can make adjustments. After that, I'll show some video, I hope. Maybe we'll get Mark Helmick to do it, and we'll see it fly. And then I got to figure out some place to hang it up in here. So that's what's going on today. So there's the escape tower, and those holes are for where these plug into, and these are facing up with the stems against the base. So it's going to make it difficult to pour these, but what I'm going to do is I got the opening in the base. I'm going to inject inside there with a syringe, and then there'll be a cut down the sides of each one of these, so there'll be a little bit of a line there to sand off, but I'll be able to get the part out through the slice, and then the silicone just goes right back again. And with this part here, it's just going to pull out from the top and be poured from the top. So that's a pretty easy one. This was a tricky one. So I'm going to fill these up with silicone. It was raining so hard a minute ago and for quite some time now that I couldn't even get the door open. We just don't get rain like this. Once in a blue moon. I guess this is that blue moon. So this is why I'm having a hard time getting anything done around here. I did pour those molds. I brought them in the kitchen. And you can always have a nice warm summer day in an oven. So these should be all right, these here. Rosie, you don't want to be out there. And so in here, and you can see the silicone molds. I poured them up. They'll probably set up quicker in here, I hope. And these can come out. They're in the oven. Oh God, they're so nice and warm. So the dogs are smart. They're in here where it's nice and warm. So is Mary. Iron Giant's happy. And you know, hopefully we can get home. The roads aren't flooded out. Everything's dry and nice. The fire's burning in here. But you know, I can't work with toxic chemicals in here. You know, I just can't. And you don't want to be around all these nice models. Mary rearranged the place, put all the masks over here. So when you first walk in to the office / showroom, that's what the first thing you see. Besides the massive enterprise, you see all these nice masks. But now our lights are going out, and only that set down there is working. So I got to do something about that. But you can see a lot of the masks here. There's Baylock down there. He should probably be up on top. And Mary's been rearranging things all the way around, right, Rosie? So what I'm doing now, and for those of you that plan to get this kit, I am flat sanding them so that I can put the two halves together and they'll fit rather well. So that's the next step here. Also, I had a bubble in this first casting, which I will not be getting in future castings coming up. This stuff's going off so slow because it's so cold. But I'll clean that off in a minute. Let's paint this black. So this has been sitting 3 hours now, so it should be quite thick, my hopes are. Also over here, I temporarily tacked on the fins that Mark Helmick made. Now I've glued the right and left halves together. I did a little flat sanding, and these things fit so perfectly. I mean, look at the fillet. You don't have those fillets on the Estes model, but you sure have them on these, and they're really a nice addition. So I painted the capsule, and you can get an idea of the size because in the tube here, in this box here is the Estes tube. You can see, and I'm going to put this one right up against it. You can see how, whoa! You can see how this one towers over it. It's considerably larger. I'm tired. time to go home, but it really looks great. So I'm really pleased with that. I'll put the other fin together next week. I'll build the escape tower. That'll be easy to do now that I have the molds, which I think they go out of the freezer into the warm part of the building. I believe are, yeah, they are, yes, they are set up. That's good. This is the last pair of fins. I'm gonna make another mold so I can make more of these fins easier, but flat sanding it worked really well. Gluing the two halves together just came out terrific. So I hope you enjoyed this week's update. Next week we'll be, with weather hopefully improving, we'll be working on the model upstairs, working on this redstone, and painting a couple of Cyclops masks, because guess what? I got another order from me. I never made one for myself or for Mary. So, we'll see you guys next week. Yeah! Delay from Estes, launching in, you gonna call it out?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. And we got parachute.
We sure do. You couldn't ask for a better first launch.
I would say it's stable.
It's I would say it's very stable, and the rock sim.
That's going to be heavy. Watch the. Yeah.
Wow. That was great. I might even do that again. There's dog barf coming down. Excellent. Okay.
That was
A special thank you to Glenn Kramer, Mark Ware, Byron Colley, Steve Dix, Bill Schreiber, Christopher Hunt, Felix Rodriguez, James Rogers, Norman Fair, Daniel Mayer, Kyle Sarpolis, Leland Lampkins, Lonnie Meisner, Michael Douglas, Paul Wood, Michael Scott, Samuel Draney, and Tom Champion.